Good evening. Welcome to Silver Slumbers, a channel where I'm tasked to help you get those soothing Z's that you deserve. So tonight we got some great news. Today we got a sponsor. This will only take 1 minute of your time. So here we go. Today we have an incredible sponsor. Say hello to BenQ. As you know, my goal is to give this community the best listening experience as possible. And that's why I'm thrilled to introduce you to BenQ's treVolo U desktop dialogue speaker. This speaker is designed to enhance your audio experience, whether you use it for audiobooks, podcasts, online learning, or just simply listening to my videos. I personally use a speaker to listen to soothing music, and it does the job. It is also very easy to use. Setting it up is a breeze. Just connect it to your device via Bluetooth, and it's ready to use. This compact speaker is just the right size to place anywhere since it doesn't take much space. It also has a companion app that pairs with the speaker. What's great is that you can customize your audio profile that fits your listening needs and get the best possible experience. It has a depth camera on the front so it can detect how loud the speaker needs to be for your environment. If you are looking to transform the way you listen, I recommend investing in a speaker such as treVolo U and dive into the sea of bliss. I'll leave a link to the Amazon page and BenQ's website in the descriptions. Thank you BenQ's audio team for the sponsor. In today's video, I'm going to be reading Let's Not Meet Stories, Volume 1. So sit back, relax, and close those eyes. And remember, don't get lost in the dark. Warning, some of these stories contain graphic content. Viewers' discretion is advised. One time, I went to a bar with one of my friends. I just had turned 21, so I haven't been to much bars up to that point. My friend was drinking on the way to the bar, so he was already pretty drunk when we got there. When I sat at the bar, a cute girl came and talked to me and my friend. She said her name was Candace, and I noticed she had a really bright red hair. I assumed she dyed it. It was pretty, but unnatural. Anyways, this girl was flirting with me and my friend. She could tell my friend was already pretty drunk. To be honest, I played along like I was already drunk too, since it seemed to be working for my friend. I didn't know if she was trying to get free drinks, so I told her we didn't have much money. She offered to buy us drinks. She kept buying us drinks. I started to get confused as to who she liked between me and my friend. My friend went to the bathroom. Before he came back, he was kicked out by a bouncer. He was too drunk. Candace and I went outside with him. She kept telling him to go home with her. He was so out of it, he could barely answer her. I told her he was too drunk and that I couldn't let him go anywhere. I didn't want him to wake up hungover in some random house with no card and no idea what happened. Candace kept pushing it, saying that she would take care of him, but I told her no because I had to stay with him. I was way more sober than him, so that made him my responsibility. I told her the only way he was going anywhere was if I tagged along. She assumed I was being jealous, but my friend could barely stand and lost interest in Candace already. She immediately started flirting with me and offered to get my friend a taxi to drive him home. Instead, we can go to her place alone. At this point, I already had a few drinks and I was pretty buzzed, so I agree. We took my friend to a taxi and walked to her car. I slightly stumbled my way to her car. "Wow, you're pretty drunk, huh?" she said, smiling, as she held onto my arm. "Yeah," I said. I don't know why, I just felt slightly shy and anxious. Everything was just happening too easy for me, so of course I felt uneasy. We got to her car. We drove down the street. "Want to stop by the liquor store and get some more drinks? I'll buy it, so don't worry about paying," she offered. I didn't want to drink anymore than I already did. I was already buzzed and wanted to be able to carry myself the rest of the night. Sometimes I make myself look stupid when I'm drunk, so I didn't want to ruin anything with Candace more than I already did earlier, with telling her that my friend was way too drunk. I told her I was already drunk enough, but she insisted. I don't want to seem lame, so I told her to give me a pint of liquor with some apple juice to chase it. She went into the store and came out with just a pint. I assumed she wanted to drink more also, and that's why she got a fifth instead of a pint. On the car ride, we passed the bottle back and forth. but she took very tiny sips. I tried to take tiny sips, but she kept passing me the bottle and telling me to drink more. I somehow managed to drink all my apple juice and pretend to drink the liquor by spitting it into the apple juice bottle. I tossed the apple juice bottle full of liquor out the window before she saw it. I didn't want her to think I was acting drunker than I was. She actually believed I was sloppy drunk when I was simply buzzed. I took a couple more sips of liquor and finished the bottle. Throughout the car ride, I called her the wrong name a couple of times to get a reaction out of her. She didn't react at all. She just kept letting me call her Carla without correcting me. For some reason, I thought she lied to me about her real name. We drove up to her house and pretended to trip and stumble into her front door. She helped me walk inside by holding me up. She opened her front door, which was unlocked. We walked in their house. She closed her front door and then locked it. I thought that was strange, but assumed that she didn't want anyone to walk in on us. I told her that I had to use the bathroom. I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and looked into the mirror. I just felt strange. I felt like something was off. I felt myself becoming more drunk from finishing the bottle earlier. I turned on the sink to make a noise and make myself puke out the liquor that I just drank. I flushed and went to the sink and started drinking the tap water out of my hands to sober up. I just didn't want to be drunk, but I still want to hook up with Candace. So I pretended to be drunk. I turned off the sink and I could hear her talking to someone. He's drunk as hell. He could barely stand up. You want to do it? Who is she talking to? And do what? I walked out of the bathroom and into the living room. The moment I stepped into the living room, I saw her walking into another room. All I could see was the back of her head. That very strange, bright red hair going into another room. I didn't see her face or anything. I just saw her kind of walk fast into the room. The living room was pretty dark. Hey, where you going? I slurred like I was drunk. She walked back into the dark living room and up to me. Let's go in my room, she said. I looked at her bright red hair and then into her eyes. They were different. Her face was different. It was a different girl with the same hair. That's when I realized it was another girl with the same wig on. It was a wig the entire time. She had changed it with the girl from earlier for whatever reason. My heart felt like it stopped, but I tried to look like I had no idea that was a different girl. I kind of smiled at her and told her that I just need to use the bathroom one more time and told her sorry that I was drunk. She said, "It's fine, just hurry up in there." I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I heard her whisper something to someone again, but this time, I think I heard a male voice whisper back. I honestly didn't concentrate on listening to exactly what she said. Something sketchy was going on and I had to get out of the house. I opened the bathroom window and jumped straight out of it and ran faster than I've ever ran in my life. I didn't look behind myself or anything. I just ran through the backyard and jumped the fence and ran through someone else's backyard. I hit the road and ran towards the main road. I kept running down the main road until I saw a 24-hour convenience store. I ran into the store and stood straight in front of the store, in front of the camera. I called a taxi and went home. I tried to think of what happened that night. What was she, or they, planning on doing that night? Why was she trying to get my friend and I so drunk? I thought maybe a robbery, but she kept spending money on us. She kept buying us drinks and even paid for my friend's taxi cab. And mostly, why did she wear a wig that she gave to another girl to wear? Who was she talking to? What did it mean? And what was it in that room that they tried to lure me into? Edit. The next day after this incident, I went back to the house with a couple of friends to see just what was going on. Nobody was there. No cars, no people, nothing. Just an empty house. I ended up finding the house was a summer rental, and whoever those people were, they broke into the house and used it for only that night and never came back. It happened about 2 months ago in Poland. I, 28 female, dropped off my friends at an airport and was driving back alone home, which takes approximately 50 minutes. It was between midnight and 1 a.m. since their flight was delayed and I wanted to make sure that they board the plane. I live in a metropolitan area of a few cities, so the way back can go either through highway, express road, or slow roads crossing city centuries. About 1/3 of the road on the highway, I noticed that there was a car driving behind me for a while now, and occasionally getting too close to my bumper. Although there were 2 more lanes on which they can easily overtake me if they wanted to. I got a weird feeling, so I decided to switch to the slower roads into the city centuries. The car continued to follow me. I couldn't take a look at the driver, just in case I memorized the license plates. Still, thought I was just maybe being paranoid. To make sure, I decided at the roundabout that I'd drive twice around it, and maybe, if the person is also just on their way home, they turn to the road that they're supposed to go. The thing is, they didn't. They kept following me. So to be double sure that I'm not just imagining things, I did the trick with roundabouts again for a few more minutes. As they continued to follow me, I started to freak out. My phone was dead. I couldn't call the police or even my girlfriend to ask neighbors and to wait for me to arrive in front of our building. I started thinking about just driving as long as I can, and I noticed that luckily I had a full tank of gas, and then I thought, oh, gas station. Gas stations, which is not far from my home, has always had at least 2 people during the night shift. I know most of the workers there. They have cameras everywhere. I parked close to the entrance, right in front of the cameras. So did the car, a bit more away, outside the camera range. And a man walked out. He's coming to my direction. I ran to the gas station, screaming that the person out there has been following me, and I needed some help. Then, when I went inside, I noticed the man was going back to his car, and he drove away. The employees of the gas station helped to calm me down and get home safely after a few hours. But since then, I look back behind my shoulder all the time, especially when driving alone and obsessively memorizing license plates. So, to that driver that was following me, let's not meet again. About 3 years ago, I, female, 21, was a waitress during the height of COVID. It was my first ever job, and I remember being so excited to start as soon as possible. After all my training was finished and I got my certifications, I was put on the closing shift. We closed at 10 p.m. every night at the time, and typically it was just my cook, male in his 20s, and I. Rarely there would be another waitress with me, and I like it that way. I always work better alone, and I didn't get along with most of the other waitresses anyway, so it was nice. I can remember that it was near the end of my time there that this experience had happened, and I'm really happy that I had the circumstance I did. I could really trust my gut very much because I had mild anxiety and couldn't tell if I felt half the time was valid or not. I mention this because when all this went down, it felt real, and I had an absolute feeling. I had started my shift that evening around 3 p.m. I said goodbye to the last waitress, and I was on my own with my cook. Everything was pretty slow and normal until I got a call about one of the specialty items on the limited time menu we had. The food couldn't be ordered as takeout, and the lady over the phone really didn't take it well. After a little debating, she finally decided to sit in and eat instead. I'd say around 10 to 20 minutes later is when I spotted an older looking car pull up, and 3 people came out. 2 men and a woman who looked like to be in their 30s or 40s. I could tell it was the same lady I spoke over the phone. Judging by her attitude coming in, I further confirmed it by asking, since I already had a pretty good idea what she wanted to eat. What I thought was an act of mild embarrassment and pettiness was actually something much more sinister. Later on, her attitude towards me changed when she saw me. She was much nicer and more cooperative. This didn't ring any bells at me at first because it was something that most people would wanted to look good in front of others would do. I sat them at the booth and took their orders. I noticed they had this red binder and a black pen. Remember this, okay? I then went to tender other customers, as there was a couple on the other tables that I was waiting on. Once I brought their food out to them, they asked me if I knew any retailers. I found this to be normal. As this being a tourist vacation state, it wasn't uncommon for outsiders to be looking for getaway homes. I would say this was reasonable for me to assume that it was nothing if they didn't look like an unsavory type of people, if you get what I mean. Nonetheless, I gave them the phone number of a retailer that I knew really well, since I often went to church with her. There wasn't any other notable interactions I really had aside with occasional small talk, if I wasn't to do anything or refill their drinks. It was around 4:30 p.m. now, and there were last of my tables to leave the restaurant. If any of you were in the food industry, you know as a server, you don't really get any breaks, just a lunch at most times. And sometimes, not even that, if it's super busy all day. So my cook and I took this as an opportunity to take a well-deserved break. We walked out behind them and had a small chat with them. I mentioned by now that in front of the restaurant had a disabled ramp coming up to the doors. It was long because the building was on a raised foundation. This is important. Now, I didn't really notice it at the time, but one of the men took my cook to the other side of the ramp, down near the end, and was chatting with him over about a cigarette. I was behind the rail at the top of the platform, where the ramp plateaued. Luckily, the other man and the woman were on the other side of the rail, about 5 feet below, but in front of me. We were having some small talk, and they started to ask some personal questions, such as if I lived in the area, if I smoked weed, how old I was, etc. I haven't quite learned yet that telling strangers such personal things wasn't a good idea. However, this, for some reason, was starting to raise some red flags. I gave very vague answers to all of her questions as best as I could. Unfortunately, they were still persistent in trying to have some sort of conversation with me outside of my work. Whether or not I said no, I suppose when they finally realized that I wasn't going to give them any information, the woman finally got to the point. She had told me that she had a business offer for me. It was for a cleaning service. I didn't like cleaning anyway, so regardless, I would have said no. However, what she said next solidified my answer. She proceeded to tell me that she owned a maid service call, the Pretty Kitty Maid Service. She said that she has 10 girls now, and she wanted to expand more. She mentioned that all of her employees get paid $30,000. She didn't really specify the time length and how it would be a great opportunity for me to help her with her business. I instantly knew at this point that it certainly wasn't maid business, and I was in danger. However, I didn't understand how much danger I was. I politely declined her offer and told her that I liked my job as it is, that I was satisfied working for my boss. She tried to further convince me by telling me how easy it is and how much I'd be making under her supervision. She mentioned how she had a van for her business and described it to me. I can't exactly remember what she told me, but I do remember how she told me to follow her to her car. She said she had to show me a picture of her van in her car, but her phone was in her hands. I knew for certain that I wasn't going to go anywhere near her or near that car. I declined yet again and said that I was fine right where I was. I told her that she could show me on her phone instead, but she was hesitant, after which she proceeded to end the conversation and left with the two men, a little shaken. I walked back into the restaurant with my cook and told him what had happened. He joked about how I would be making good money if I went with them, because I didn't take this situation as seriously as I should have. I laughed with him. At the end of the night, when the cook's mother came to pick him up, I mentioned the weird interaction. A panicked look came over her face. She became silent. She stared at me. I got confused and asked her if everything was okay. That's when I learned the signs of human trafficking. She broke it to me that I was almost trafficked, and I was incredibly lucky that I didn't get kidnapped. My stomach dropped and I started to panic at the realization of how much danger I was in. Nothing really happened after that, except for the red binder and the black pen I told you about to remember. I went to work the next day and a customer walked in. Now, normally in my part of town, not many people like to sit and relax for a while. They were mostly there just to eat and leave, as it wasn't exactly a cafe. Well, I get into my apron and sit this gentleman down. He was well dressed, not in a suit or a tie, but just dressed nicely. He was alone. I sat him at a single booth and took his order of one single coffee. He had a red binder and black pen with him. I didn't even notice that until my cook from the other night reminded me about it. I was so shocked at the fact that it unsettled me even more that he proceeded to sit there for 3 more hours. I bet he was watching me as I tend to my tables. I kept asking him if he needed anything else, and he asked me if people never sat and just relaxed for a cup of coffee. I sort of shrugged and said, "No, not here." Now, this might come to a surprise to some of you, but servers, believe it or not, do listen on some of your conversations. I'm lucky that I did this one. I specifically remember speaking over the phone with him about finances and how he needed to find another house. He spoke about moving money and how he was going to pay his girls that night. I ran to the back of the kitchen and told my cook. Thankfully, he came out with me to help deliver some plates in order to throw the guy off. It worked, I think. He ended up leaving not long after that. I haven't seen or heard anything since. I'll tell you though, I've been much more on guard ever since. So basically, I was almost human trafficked and I didn't know. Thanks to some gut feeling, I wound up as lucky. No, I wasn't able to report them because their car was facing forwards toward the building's cameras, and we couldn't see the license plates. Yes, I told my manager and he never allowed any servers to leave the building without someone else walking them out. I made it known throughout the whole staff about what happened since I didn't want any of them to get hurt. I used this story as a way to tell others to please be safe and be aware of your surroundings. I didn't think this could happen to me. It could happen to anyone, but please be safe and observant. I am a 20-year-old female. I flew back home yesterday, and throughout my flight, I sat next to a talkative old man. We'll call him R. He filled me in on his whole history, from his polyamorous ancestors down to his 13th great-grandkids. He also pulled the, "You seem really shy. You know, I got a great-grandson who's also really shy too, but very good-looking. And women, they just want a good looker, right? Boy, I wish he was here so I can introduce you both." I chalk up the weirdness to his age, but ultimately decided that he was just a nice guy trying to make some conversation with the kid that he's sitting next to. It wasn't until I got home and told my mom about the encounter that I began to wonder if that was the whole story. Now, my mom watches a lot of true crime, so I recognized that she could just be paranoid. But she figured a lot of questions he asked me to be indicated of something more sinister than just being a chronic talker. I'll just list out some of the stuff that just sounded really weird to my mom and me. The first one just included the further context and not necessarily creepy. The guy said, "So, you're in college?" I reply, "Yeah." He said, "You don't look like you're in college." I said back, "Yeah, I'm short." R says, "Well, no, that's not it. You look young." R then said, "So you're going to be an elementary school teacher, huh? What is your full name so I can remember you whenever you're famous?" Me. I said my first name. R. He said my name, but purposely mispronounced it. And I just said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, but what's your..." Me. I said, "What's your name?" R said, "R. Now, what's your full name? I need your full name. This is so I can remember you when you're famous." I did give him my full name. I'm really bad under pressure. I should have just told him that I'm uncomfortable with giving out that kind of information. Also, who becomes famous as an elementary school teacher? R said, "So, are you married? Are you in a long-term relationship with anyone?" This was after his polygamy gets a bad rap spiel. I said, "No." R asked me, "Any boyfriends?" I said, "No." And yeah, just a lot of questions about where I was going and who I was going to see, my living family situation, my neighborhood, etc. My mom let me know that this was kind of integrative scenario where it could have been a sign of human trafficking. But of course, I don't know that. After the plane ride, we had to be bused to our terminal. And we were almost to the same bus, but avoided the last second. Maybe R was just genuinely a nice guy who just wanted to get to know me after sharing things about himself. But just in case, R, let's not meet again. Good morning. I have posted a sub once before about an event that happened to me when I was a small child, but it's been a while. Hopefully I do this in the correct format. This happened about a month ago in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. I am a 20-year-old white American woman from Alaska. I am slightly above average height for a woman my age, and I am no by means tiny. Though I'm not particularly fat or buff either, just average. My point of mentioning that is that I wouldn't be an easy target to just scoop up and kidnap. I also have a lot of identifying features. My waist length, my hair is currently half blonde, half dark brown, and I have visible tattoos all over my upper body, including on both my arms. Last month, I was in Japan for 2.5 weeks with my fiance and some family members and several of our mutual friends. The whole group was about 12 people. I speak fluently in Japanese, and I'm a really well-traveled person and consider myself to be pretty street smart to take care of myself. So while I did not go wander off alone much on this trip, I wasn't concerned if I have to go somewhere by myself. It was Friday night during the Golden Week in Tokyo, the day before we were leaving to come back to the States, and our group was able to go out drinking on our last night. The area we were staying in wasn't the nicest, but it wasn't particularly bad either, just more dirty than other parts of Tokyo, and with a lot more tourists and more homeless people, etc. Each night we went out to go out. The men in our group would be openly propositioned by prostitutes, and there were often people just passed out in the streets like that. So on the last night, we were all going to meet up in front of our hotel, a large, nice hotel in the main city center, to go out, and I happened to be the first person there. Now, while I wasn't with my group/people that I know, I was by no means alone. There were hundreds of people around as this was a very populated area, and I was standing on the sidewalk in front of a hotel. A man suddenly approached me, and the first thing that came up to my guard was how close he got to me. Again, this was a crowded area, but by no means crowded or noisy enough that he needed to be within 5 inches away from my face, which he was. He was black, and he looked around to be my age, probably between 25 and 35. He immediately started asking me questions, and I got more suspicious and on edge with each one. This is how the conversation went. Stranger said, "Hello, where are you from?" Me, "I'm from Alaska." Stranger said, "Ooh, American?" Me, "Yeah, where are you from?" Stranger, "Ghana. Are you here alone?" I said, "No, I'm with about 15 other people, including my husband and my dad. They're in that shop right there." In reality, I was with 12 people, including my fiance. My dad was not there, and none of the group was in my nearby shop. The stranger said, "What hotel are you staying at?" Me, I said, "I don't know the name of it. It's across the city." I also lied, as we were staying in front of the hotel that I was staying at. The stranger said, "How old are you?" I said, 35. Also a lie. I was trying to say that I was old as possible while having it still be believable. The stranger said, "Right. Come with me." I said, "Yeah, no thanks." At this point, I began to turn and walk away. The stranger said, "Yes, come with me." I said, "Nope, bye." I then began to hurriedly walk towards the nearby shops. The stranger started muttering, "Take something. Wake up in paradise." Luckily, he didn't follow me, and I waited for my group inside the store. I waited there just to get away from him. I immediately messaged our group, and my fiance and another man immediately came down. This incident was particularly scary because a couple of people on the trip with us did not have the radar of this kind of thing, and it makes me feel like I had to think about what might have happened if it had been one of being the proposition instead of me. Also, I know I should have just stopped talking to guys sooner. I just kind of frozen, and at the beginning I thought he might have just been a regular guy trying to hit on me, which I planned to kindly turn him down. Asking where I'm from didn't strike me too weird on his own, but his next lines were concerning. They were just enormous red flags. Notice that the whole conversation was never once asked my name or if I was married with someone, which you would expect someone might be if they're just trying to hit on you. Also, keep in mind that this happened in one of the safest countries on the planet. The moral of the story is you can never be too careful, especially as a woman. Keep your wits about you and don't ever feel bad about blowing off strangers. Also, if something seems off, don't give out your real information. Ever. I shouldn't even have told him what actual state I was from. But luckily I realized that he was just really sketchy after that, and I didn't give him any more real information. So that creepy guy in Japan, let's never meet again. At the time I was 16, female. I was attending my first college quarter. Everything was going smoothly and I was making plenty of friends until about halfway through the semester. One of my classmates, 26 male, came up to me to exchange numbers and potentially go out on a date. I tried to make myself clear that I did not want to go out with him simply because he was a lot older than me and that I was not interested. I kindly let him down, but he insisted that he give me his number. I continued to tell him no, and he took my phone out of my hand and made himself a contact. This startled me because it only got worse. The next day in class, we are in a regular 10-minute break, and I was chatting with my friends, and when he came up to me mid-conversation, asking me to go talk with him, I firmly told him no, I'm in the middle of a conversation. He basically gave me the finger and acted like I am the worst person in the world. He stormed down the hallway and kicked open the doors. I went back into the classroom to at least be with my professor if anything more happened. My friend texted me, asking me what I said to him because he was outside kicking around the trash can and basically screaming at anyone who walked past him. At this point, I was scared to even leave the classroom because I didn't know what he was going to do. I had a previous stalker at the beginning of the semester and had been in contact with the school about that. So I expressed how my classmate was making me uncomfortable at my weekly counseling sessions. The school was well aware. He ended up leaving me alone for the whole week or two. Then one day, there was a note on my desk asking if I loved him, if I wanted to marry him, and to have kids with him. He wasn't in the classroom when I saw it, so I just slipped into my backpack and ignored them for the rest of the lecture. I gave him the note to my counselor so she could see that he may be a real issue. I believe she contacted my professor to make sure that I was safe in class. After the note, we only had about a week left, so jumping to the very last day, it was the independent study day, and we were on our own. He came into the class and somehow got himself kicked out, so he ended up leaving. I felt so relieved because I knew that this would be the last time I would ever see him. At this point, I knew I needed to get my stuff done quickly. It made a mad dash to my car. I was about one lecture away from finishing when he walks into the door and sits down at his desk. I knew that I just needed to log off my computer and just finish it later. So I gathered all my things and thanked the professor. I was speedwalking to my car when I had that gut feeling that someone was staring at me. I had to turn around and make sure that it wasn't him. Unfortunately, it was him. He was full on running to me. My first reaction was to call my mom for help. Just as our call connected, he grabbed my arm and pulled me to stop. At this moment, I'm telling him to leave me alone as loud as I can, and that I'm only 16. He said word for word, "Age doesn't matter. I know we're in love." I ran to my car as fast as I could to get away from him, but he stayed on me. Thankfully, my car only locked the driver's side door because He tried to get in. From this day on, I've been watching my back and surroundings to make sure no one was following me or watching me. So creepy 26-year-old man, let's never meet again. This started a couple days ago, July 5th, where I get a random phone call from FedEx around 10 p.m. where they would ask me for my name and address, which they already knew. I gave it to them thinking it might have been a package that got lost or somehow found its way back to my home. Hindsight, I should have known FedEx don't deliver past 8 p.m. here in Canada. I thought nothing of it until I got another phone call saying that they can't find my unit number and asked me to come out to a roundabout nearby my place. My dad thought it was weird, so he patrolled around the area to find these people. My dad did around 4 laps. The first lap, there wasn't anyone there, but then I got curious and joined him for the second lap. Yet again, nothing. I went back into my home, and my dad did a third lap around the house. He found a gray SUV in the corner and confronted them. They told my dad that they aren't a delivery person, and my dad left to do another confirm check. As he was doing his final lap, the same SUV wasn't there. The next day, July 6th, around 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., we heard a doorbell ringing, and I went down to check, and it was these 2 individuals who were about maybe 20. They knew my name and was calling out for me. I thought it was weird because I've never seen them before. I didn't feel safe, so I didn't pursue them. They kept coming over and over again. So we called the police and talked to them about what should we do. The cops told me to contact them if this happens ever again. The next day, July 7th, it was very quiet and nothing weird happened, so we thought the worst had ended. And then just went on with the day. The next day, July 8th, it was the same quietness. But when the time approached 11 p.m., my security camera spotted an individual with a mask on taking photos or videos of my current house. This was the breaking point. We contacted the police and informed them about this weird behavior. Just when you thought it was over, I was casually in my living room, and around 3 in the morning the same day, July 8th, I heard something thunking outside my balcony. I thought it could be anything, but I didn't mind it until it thunk again. I went to the nearby balcony to go see what it was, and then it clicked. I was face to face with the intruder. I started screaming for help, and my family came down to check out the commotion. Thank God I checked out the balcony that day. Who knows what else could have happened. Today is July 9th, and I haven't got a wink of sleep in thinking about the terror that I faced. Am I the one that they're targeting in this home invasion? How did they get my name? What did they want from me? I guess we'll never know, but to the guy that was on my balcony, let's never meet again. Thank you guys so much for supporting these past videos. It's been amazing, and you guys have been interacting with me in the community tab in the comments, and I just love it. Thank you. Please, if you guys have any more suggestions of video topics, just let me know in the comments or on the community tab. Also, I'm going to make a playlist for rain and sleep videos and have certain selected videos that I think will be a good ideal for sleep, because I am well over of 8 hours of content that I could put into a playlist. So go out and check out the playlist tab. I'll have it named as 8+ hours of slumber videos. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed these true Let's Not Meet stories, Volume 1. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you're asleep, well, maybe you can hear me in your dream world. Keep dreaming, as this is the only time where you can escape reality. And I'll let you listen to the rain. Enjoy the slumber world.